Back on Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Head over to youtube.com. Put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Find our page, subscribe, leave us a comment there. We're also free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Download us today. You can find us on Spotify, Odyssey, and all of your favorite platforms. Leave us a 5-star review there and give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. Well, we're headed toward SEC Media Days coming up. Very much looking. I'm going to be at SEC Media Days, and we'll be doing some coverage and probably do a little bit here for the show as well. The SEC is very interesting this year when you look at the quarterback position. There are a lot of talented guys. You have the Heisman Trophy winner coming back as Bryce Young from Alabama. You have the national championship quarterback in Stetson Bennett coming up. And then, of course, a myriad of both guys returning, KG Jefferson, Hendon Hooker guys, Will Rogers, guys who had really good years last year in the SEC. Then you also have a mix of a lot of different guys that are transfers. Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, Spencer Rattler at South Carolina, Max Johnson headed over to Texas A&M. So you have a lot of transition too. And then you've got a few guys that we have some questions about. Is Will Levis a guy that can be as good as we think? Is Anthony Richardson a true quarterback? What's interesting about Will Levis and Anthony Richardson is the fact that there are a lot of mock drafts for next year that put those guys as top 10, 15 draft picks, both Levis of Kentucky and Anthony Richardson of Florida. So where does Stetson Bennett rank among SEC quarterbacks coming into this year? Now, we've talked about the fact that Bennett had 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns last year. And I know a lot of people look at Stetson Bennett as a game manager and this, that, and the other. But in the college football world, when you're 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, that's not ham and egg numbers. That's not game manager ham and egg numbers. Now, there's no question, it's not even a debate. Bryce Young is the best quarterback, not just in the SEC. He's the best quarterback coming back in college football. With all due respect to our friends at Ohio State, CJ Stroud is tremendous, but Bryce Young is the Heisman Trophy winner, and he was in the national championship game last year. So Bryce Young is number one, CJ Stroud number two. But in the SEC, I understand KJ Jefferson had a really good year last year, but even he was 2,700 yards, and he did run it for about 650 yards last year. But is he better than Stetson Bennett? I love Hendon Hooker. I think if there's a guy in the SEC that has a chance to really move up, it's Hendon Hooker. And Will Rogers, to me, is, he's a product of the offense that he plays in. Threw for 4,700 yards. But is he a great quarterback? I don't know. I mean, how good is Mississippi State? I'm going to put Stetson Bennett at number 2. And I'm going to put it at number 2 because it's not a stat-driven thing. I always talk about quarterbacks is, are you winning? There is, especially in college football, certainly in the NFL, but especially in college football, there is something about quarterbacks who win and quarterbacks who don't screw it up. It's easy in college football to have some outstanding and great units. Georgia's defense last year, one of the all-timers, but they were still a 40-point per game offense. They were 38.6 points per game, just a whisker to under 40 a game. So they weren't some just ham and egg offense that just, was lucky. They weren't winning every game 13-7. Now, does their defense help them be a better offense? Yeah, because teams are having to punt the football or turning it over, and Georgia's going to have some good field position, and their defense has a say in all of that. But we talked about the fact that Georgia's skill position people are on par with most teams in the conference and, across the country. They have a lot of weapons. And you would figure that Stetson Bennett is going into a year where he knows he's going to be the starter. And with all due respect to our fans at the University of Georgia, oh, well, they've got this guy. They got that. Yeah. They got Brock Vandagriff, and they got, okay, Stetson Bennett's your quarterback. I don't care what Kirby can talk about competition and all this and the other. He's the national championship winning quarterback. And there is something to that. There is something to you won with the won a national championship with Stetson Bennett. And look, Go back in the old days to Alabama. Okay. Was Jay Barker a great quarterback? No. But was he a guy who didn't screw things up and he won? Yes. And you know what? Jay Barker's as beloved as anybody in that state of Alabama. You think Jay Barker's paid for a meal in the last 30, 35 years or however long it's been, early 90s? You think in the last 30 years, Jay Barker's paid for a single solitary meal? Hell, he got to marry a country singer for it, right? He won the national championship, never paid for a meal, and he married a country singer. So there is something to winning in it. Does it mean Stetson Bennett is going to have better stats than Will Rogers or maybe even Hendon Hooker? I don't know. Is he going to have better stats than Jackson Dart, who comes over from Southern Cal and is going to be another guy that's going to put up video game numbers in a Lane Kiffin offense? No. But Stetson Bennett quarterbacks the best team coming back in the nation. Okay. Say what you will about Bryce Young as an individual, and he is the Heisman Trophy winner, but he's not captaining, excuse me. I mean, he's not coming back and captaining what was the best team in college football last year. Now, they may be the best team in college football this year, and I do think that they're going to be ranked number one, but I think you have to give Bennett his due. For a guy that was 3,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, and I'm going to be the first guy to tell you that I had my doubts and disbeliefs about could you win with Stetson Bennett. Now that he's answered those questions, now we have to give him some love and respect. There are a lot of really good quarterbacks in the SEC this year. Just look at the SEC East with Stetson Bennett and Hendon Hooker and Anthony Richardson and Spencer Rattler and Will Levis. There are a lot of really talented quarterbacks in there, but I think you have to give Stetson his due. I think when it's the combination of, and by the way, Stetson Bennett didn't start the entire season. Remember that. He had 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns to 7 picks and didn't even start every game last year for Georgia. The numbers will be there. The playmakers are there for Georgia. They're going to be at worst, again, the number 3 team in the nation. There's no reason for Georgia to be in anybody who's got Georgia less than 3rd in the country doesn't really know college football. And I'm going to say that with all due respect. No, I'm not going to say hell with that. No, I'm cancel that. With no due respect to any Hammonager Jabron. If you don't have Georgia at number 3, then you didn't watch what they did last year. And I'm going to give Stetson his due. I think Stetson Bennett is the second best quarterback coming back in the SEC this year. It's a crowded field. There'll be guys that'll put up video game types of numbers. There's going to be a lot of guys that, and again, I'm not worried about the NFL draft. This is not talking about NFL or anything like that. This is in college. I don't care if Richardson and Levis are considered top 10 picks or anything like that. In the college game and quarterbacking the returning national championship Georgia Bulldogs, Stetson Bennett won't have a backward year. He's not going to have a year where he goes down and he's 2,500 yards and 20 touchdowns, whatever like that. His numbers will be on par or better, and he's going to lead the Bulldogs back into the college football playoff world. All right, we thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Thanks for making Hittin' Hard your first listen. As always, we want you to make A to Z with Mark Zinno your second listen. It is free and available on YouTube as well. Mark is giving all his opinions back on the Atlanta airwaves, and you can find his podcast available on Spotify, Odyssey, all your favorite platforms. Leave some comments and reviews for Zinno's podcast as well. Follow me on my personal Twitter page. It is at JM316. We will be back to wrap up the week tomorrow. This has been Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery on Locked On Sports Atlanta.